Hey everybody, welcome back. This is Inigo. It's the 14th of December, Monday. So I said I was going to do a video about my trip to DC to experience the Trump MAGA Million Man March. So what I want to talk about in the beginning is the coverage. Of course, the coverage afterwards that I've seen is that there was violence and arrests and stabbings, and here on the Daily Mail, at least they covered both sides equally. But what I got out of my weekend there was that, and I'll get into it. I went down 11 o'clock in the morning. We parked, we took city bikes, and pretty much just biked down to the monuments. Actually, I have a map here. Here you go. Don't want to do that. So everything you've heard about in terms of the one video that's circulating of the Proud Boy getting stabbed and the one Antifa guy getting his ass kicked over and over and over again took place here, or around here. So most of the events took place at the Capitol building, which is over here. And most people parked up here. Black Lives Matter Plaza is right here. And the Freedom Plaza, which is where the Trump people were kind of hanging out, and this road right here, kind of the way everything was situated is people were shooting down this road, these roads, and then this is the main walk to the monuments and the Green and the mall and the National Mall and all that stuff, which we'll see is mostly empty. So all this fighting took place within a couple blocks, and if you avoided it and nothing happened. I was there all day. I didn't see any of it. I saw a bunch of Proud Boy people walking around. I didn't see any Antifa because I wasn't looking for it. And to be honest, during the day, it was there was nothing. We rode bikes through the National Mall, smoked a J or two, just kind of hung out. But again, if you wandered into this area, these streets were blocked off, and these areas right here was where all the Trump supporters were set up. There was you could tell there were different organizations and events set up. There was different stages. There was a stage over here near the Capitol building. There were right around here. There was, stages over here near the Washington Monument, and then on this road there was a bunch of stuff. So people were bouncing around here, and then eventually the Supreme Court is where Alex Jones and his buddies went. But again, I spent the whole day in this area down here, and nothing happened. It's overblown. Even by the likes of Tim Pool, who, and again, going into it, if you stay after dark and you wandered around that area, you were looking to get in a fight. You were looking for it. I saw almost no screaming matches during the day. Again, I wasn't looking for them, though, because, again, if you want honest coverage of the situation, you have to go looking for this Civil War street violence that they're covering as if that was the whole event. Most of the event were just families of Trump supporters, filled with Trump supporters of all ages, touring all the monuments and taking photos. And then there were the organized protest people doing their speeches. There was a lot of grifting going on where these people I'd never heard of were all just decked out in MAGA gear. And they were on stage doing speeches about, And if I had this very familiar vibe of going to the first Tea Party rally in D.C. after Obama won, where Fox News and Glenn Beck and those guys had just started to jump on the Tea Party bandwagon and co-opt it. It had the same feel. A lot of the speakers that I heard were talking about, we're going to be, no one's going to stop us from going into these city centers and having these protests. So again, what you have to know, we just understand is, it's not like the residents of these areas in Washington D.C. are fighting. It's people from out of the state, out of the city, coming in, looking for a fight and finding one. And these grifters are going to go around the country, continuing to have protests. Everyday normal Trump people are just going to want to go to either listen to them speak or see people that are like-minded, and that'll bring violence by the two groups. But, I parked right in this area. Nothing happened. We were gone, of course, by the time it got dark, around dusk. We hung out for an hour at some point in a restaurant right here, about a block north of Harry's Restaurant and Bar, which is supposedly where all the Trump supporters hung out. We went to actually here, I think, Proper 21. It's pretty good. So yeah, I get home and I go on social media and I see all the stories are about how the Proud Boys burnt a Black Lives Matter flag and attacked people and were being violent. But yeah, if you look at all the photos that you'll see in here, this all took place at night. This one is hilarious how almost staged that is. It's not staged, but you know what I mean. But yeah, look, it all happened at night there's 2 or 3 street corners. These doors are already boarded up when we got there. And it's like a social event for these people. We saw it took place in Olympia, Washington, and I think Atlanta. But I saw none of this. I saw some Proud Boy people, but the violence wasn't there during the day. You had to go look for it, which clearly these people are doing. So yeah, I'm not going to super exaggerate the Civil War and act like, oh, D.C. was a war zone yesterday. It just wasn't. So yeah, I was listening to Tim Pool today and I just had to say something that even he's acting like, oh, this is the end and there's no turning back, and it's just not true. So don't buy into it. Don't hate your neighbor. There's no reason for it. So let's go through some of the photos I took. Just, I'll show you some stuff. And then I want to get to a couple foreign policy stories, and I'll call it a day. So again, we made it to the Lincoln Memorial, the temple, as the statists call it. He is their king, of course. So much marble and money stolen from us taxpayers used to build their city that you clearly feel like you're not in control of, but there were some good, it was so empty though. See how empty it was? It was actually a very good time to go. When everybody's down at the Capitol building waiting to LARP, you can go and see all the memorials and there's nobody there. World War II Memorial. Took some pictures. Somebody had left a bullet on the World War II Memorial for their friend. Took a picture of that. Trump Hotel. Of course, this was right in the middle of where the scuffles did take place after dark. But again, don't hang out after dark. There's no reason to be there. You're not from there. I thought this picture was funny with the black helicopter. But the real hero of this photo is in the bottom left there. This guy. But this park ranger was using his personal knife to carve off the gum from the statue, which I was like kind of shocked to see a government employee doing their job, earning their paycheck. But yeah, I had a great time. We then took a ride out. That's the fake White House. I was kind of joking that this could be a decoy if they ever needed one. Beautiful building. And then we grabbed some food, and before we left, we made sure we swung by and made sure no shady shit was going on at Comet Ping Pong. This place was literally, there's this one street in a really bad neighborhood, and there's just a bunch of hipster restaurants all connected, and just, yeah, it's kind of creepy and eerie, to be honest. Didn't eat there, of course. Just kind of said hi, asked for James, and went about our day. So before I get out of here, let's go over a couple of the stories I wanted to get to. But again, guys, just don't buy into the nonsense that, there's just, again, you have to go looking for it. Should be focusing on bettering things, getting less reliant on this system, so you don't have to go fight in the streets and LARP because you have nothing else in your life, which is kind of what I saw a lot of, to be honest. But here's some stories. Trump is reviving his threat to veto the defense bill, which is good. If he does veto it, this is the NDAA. If he does veto it, it's 10 days to veto it, sign it, or allow it to law. If he does veto it, they have till, I think, January 3rd to amend it, or it will expire. So I'm hoping he does that into the Christmas break, giving them something to mull over at least. Expanding further, in the Middle East, Iraq, which we're trying to pull out of, there's been a surge in Iraqi violence. ISIS is trying to make a little bit of a pushback in the west part of the country where Mosul is. They're also in the eastern part of Syria trying to regain a foothold. So 43 ISIS fighters were killed when the Iraqi government, along with the U.S. and our warplanes, pushed them back a little bit. So increased fighting in the north of Iraq. Speaking of the north of Iraq, the Kurdish north of Iraq, which is the area that was the most liberated after ISIS left, and the violence there. There's now a lot of local unrest as payments are not, public sector payments for jobs are not, checks are bouncing, street violence, government corruption, the normal stuff, and this is the life in a post/current war-torn country. So yeah, more blowback from America's invasion of Iraq in 2003, just continuing. And these are the Kurds, who we always use as our excuse to stay there because we're supposedly helping them, when clearly nothing we're doing is helping them. In Afghanistan, looks like there was a major, I don't know if it was an offensive or defensive measure by the Afghani government, which is really just the U.S. puppet government of Afghanistan. They killed a large amount of Taliban, and now the Doha talks, which have been going on before COVID, almost a year, look to be headed for a abrupt conclusion. The first round of talks were cut short, and they're now taking a 23-day break. 23-day break. They were supposed to decide on the agenda for the talks, but they never. That's even on hold. With the new violence, there's still no ceasefire deal. These talks might fall apart, and then we could actually amazingly see with a Biden administration, after all this talk, a re-escalation of the war in Afghanistan and Iraq, which would just be, shocking for somebody like me, but I guess par for the course for the emperor. Just crazy that's how evil these people are, and how much they hate Trump, that they won't even allow the guy to do the one thing he probably could do that's good, and at least slow these wars down and change the narrative of the wars in American discord. But because they hate him so much, they immediately have to argue the other side. And then their readers end up supporting wars that they otherwise would be against. It's just crazy. And in Yemen, if you're not familiar, Yemen right now is in a civil war between the North and the South. The North being the Houthi rebels that are the Shiite rebels, who the U.S. government and the West say are close to Iran, which they never really were, but now they are. After years of being scapegoated and told that they were, Iran actually starts to help them. But in the south of the country, which is still held by the Yemeni government, the U.S. Saudi-backed Yemeni government, they've been dealing with their own separatist movement in the south, the STC, and they just agreed to a power-sharing deal. The central government there is very weak, as you can tell. They can't beat the Houthis in the north, and this separatist movement made it all the way into the capital before a ceasefire and a power-sharing deal were agreed upon. So that's kind of the stage is set in those three areas in the Middle East as we head into a Biden administration. I'll do a little research on Syria and see exactly where we are, but I want to start tracking the boots on the ground situation there as we head into Biden 2021. So when the news starts hitting about him saying, oh, we have to go here because of this, or we have to go here because of this violence, or there was this attack, you guys have a little bit of context to roll your eyes and call bullshit when you hear it from him. So that's going to be what I'll be focusing on the next couple of days. The Trump Civil War stuff, I went there. I covered it. If you don't agree with my coverage, go yourself. Mostly harmless. If it was so violent, I wouldn't have been able to whistle and ride my bike around. I wasn't dressed in a costume like a lot of Trump supporters were looking. But it definitely felt like if you were there at 11 and you hung out and you left, you were fine. If you stayed looking to get drunk and have a fight, you found a fight. And yeah, the violence in those fights has escalated, but you don't have to be part of it. We were buying food from food trucks and going to hippie bars. People had Trump stuff inside. No one's spitting on them. I will say the mask compliance in DC, which is the first major city I've been in since COVID, is ridiculously high. And you do get looks for not wearing them outside. And there are mask areas, which are supposedly mask zones, which are supposedly like 100%. They're like, this is a masked up neighborhood, mask up. People will say stuff to you. But other than that, that's to be expected. I don't understand this concept of people who live in the rural area of the country, which I consider they have a leg up from the ones in the city during a, I guess, quote unquote civil war or depression or economic downturn. You have land, space, and you can grow your own food. And these people are living on top of each other. They're relying on supply chains and everything for their food. So I don't know why it's like, oh, can you believe the cities are falling? Just let them burn themselves out. I mean, that's where I was at. Just let them burn themselves out. We were there. I was there to just cover it and enjoy myself, and I did. And yeah, just don't buy into that LARPy fight thing coming from the left or the right. The Steven Crowders of the world, even the Alex Joneses, they really sell on that. And the best way to show them you don't comply is to not comply. Go out, learn your skills, get your land, get your neighborhood, find your neighbors, find your community, and build your family. And like they say in V for Vendetta, they want to show they need you to need them, and that means the system. And just if we don't need them and we can cut ourselves off from them, then Antifa will just run around attacking their own people, and we can just kind of point and laugh from the sidelines. And it's a lot less stress on your life. So that's all I have to say. Leave some comments. But I thought I needed to get that out because everything I've seen about this weekend so far from anybody covering it that was there is this false context where they went looking to cover the one thing they knew was going to happen. There's going to be some fight somewhere. They didn't cover the rest of it. All right, so until next time, this has been Inigo. Enjoy your evening, and I'll talk to you guys soon.